And can y'all see a Bio-Blitz using the urban environment as a learning lab? Good. I see Janelle's thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So at any time, if you can't see something that I'm pointing to, I think y'all can all see my pointer at this point. And again, I don't have the chat pulled up, so Elena, just feel free to interject at any given moment. But I'm excited to talk about this topic. I know many of you, and it's fun to see all your faces on Zoom. I wish we could be in person doing this, but this is a nice plan B, I would say. And so when Janelle asked if I would speak about Bio-Blitzes, I started thinking about, okay, well, we've done a Bio-Blitz, but let me try to make it a general conversation about what a Bio-Blitz is. I'll give you an example of the one that we did as a big year-long project, and then really kind of frame it as anybody can do this. And like Elena just said, I mean, this is one of those events that you can go to, and it gives you goosebumps, and it just makes you excited, especially with everyone who's on here tonight. I mean, we're all interested in natural history. We're all naturalists at heart. And so with us being away from each other and away from doing the kinds of field excursions that we love to do, I want you to just remember that you can use your urban environment as a learning lab. And so that's the way that I've framed this conversation tonight is that, even outside of your door, outside of your house is an urban environment. Well, it is an urban environment, but even that can be a Bio-Blitz, and you can use it as an opportunity to learn. So think of that as your entire lab. So for those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, I am M.A. Thomas. I am an assistant professor of biology at Loyola University, and a member of the inaugural Louisiana Master Naturalist Greater New Orleans class, and currently a member of the board. And so it's exciting to speak at this seminar series. So let's just jump right in. And first thing I want to do is really just define what a Bio-Blitz is, so that you're not sitting here the whole time scratching your head going, all right, this is the title of it, but what actually is it? So I grabbed two pretty good descriptions of what a Bio-Blitz is, and hopefully by the end of this conversation, you'll have in your mind what it means to you and how it can be a part of your being as a naturalist. The one that I like the best, the kind of general description is really, it's found on iNaturalist, which is a citizen science free app that I'm, by the end of the night, hopefully going to encourage you all and entice you all to download onto your iPad or your iPhones, your cell phones. You can download it to an Android or to the iOS for your Apple software. And so just the other day, I was looking at this, and a Bio-Blitz it's communal citizen science effort. Let me go ahead and move this around so I can read on my slides. To record as many species within a designated location and time period as possible. I mentioned that I like this definition, and I like it because when I was first introduced to Bio-Blitzes, it was this staunch, you have to do it this way, you have to just have scientists that work on these events, and it has to be over a 24-hour period, and it has to just be in this one location. Well, that's not the way it has evolved to become over the past few years. So I really like this definition of what a Bio-Blitz is. And so these two pictures, and I'll show you several pictures along the way, were taken by the Loyola photographer Kyle Enker, who's a friend of mine, who came to our Bio-Blitz that we put on in City Park in 2017 and 2018. And so I'll share with you some of the photos that he captured of people doing what we love to do, which is being out in nature. So the other definition, though, that I think that I need to bring up to you is the one on Wikipedia. And this was the original kind of frame of how people thought of Bio-Blitzes, where it was this intense period of biological surveying in an attempt to record all the living species within a designated area. Groups of scientists, naturalists, and volunteers conduct an intensive field study over a continuous time period, usually 24 hours. Very similar to the previous definition, but this one's a little more intense. And so I show them both to you just so you can realize that there are different ways of approaching doing a Bio-Blitz. And again, let me just say it one more time. I hope by the end of this conversation that you will have in your mind what you envision to be a Bio-Blitz, and how you can do it by yourself, with family members, with your neighbors, in your own neighborhood, right outside of your door. So one of the things when we decided that we wanted to do a Bio-Blitz a few years ago, I too, like Elena said in the introduction, had gone to a couple of Bio-Blitzes, and they were great. They were great at getting people excited about what they were looking at. Great way to engage people who otherwise might not be looking at nature, and also colleagues to kind of reinvigorate their quest and their love for doing what got them excited about nature in the first place and about science in the first place. And so iNaturalist has a little statement that I just grabbed from their website to share with you, is that Bio-Blitzes are great ways to engage the public to connect to the environment while generating useful data for science and conservation. They are also an excuse for naturalists, scientists, and curious members of the public to meet in person in the great outdoors, and are a lot of fun. And for those of you who have been around Dr. Bob, you know that that's always his mantra is, let's have fun. So that's the way I've grown up around it, is let's get outside and let's have fun. So you see the picture of the young naturalist with his binoculars around his neck, and yet that wasn't enough. He had to look at some other critters using our microscopes we had set up to try to engage him and get him excited about what he had collected along the trail. And then you can also see in the other picture that's at the bottom of our screen there, a family that joined our Bio-Blitz, and then a couple other people in the background looking at different critters that they were finding that otherwise they might have just walked right by on the trail at Couturier Forest in City Park. So it absolutely is a great way to engage people and to teach them about this. And then of course, from our perspective, from a science perspective, we wanted to have the data. We wanted to know who was in City Park. Meg Adams, who many of y'all know is a member of our organization, actually challenged us and asked us if we would help by creating a list of all the flora and the fauna, all the critters that were in City Park, so that they might be able to use that for making some decisions in the future. I mean, that's kind of just basically how she asked us to do this. And then, and so we thought, well, let's not just keep it to ourselves. Let's get the public involved. And that's why we ended up doing a Bio-Blitz. This is a slide that I'm showing you just briefly. It's the sign that I have outside of my research lab at Loyola University, because it's what I try to let people know that I do in my lab. Because yes, I'm a naturalist. Yes, I'm a scientist. I'm interested in spiders. But really, what we do in my lab is we're interested in promoting any kind of environmental awareness by researching the natural history of invertebrate species and effective communication of science through educational outreach and citizen science events. So this Bio-Blitz is a perfect representation of promoting environmental awareness by studying and learning about our invertebrate species that we have in our park, in our urban environment, telling others about it, hopefully in an effective way, communicating that information, and then making it a citizen science event. So this, of course, leads me into our project that we did at City Park. And I have to give credit where credit is due. There were a lot of people involved in this project. I am not the only one involved in this project. I, along with Dr. Bob, organized the actual events and the entire project, but there were a lot of people that helped us use New Orleans City Park as our learning lab for this particular Bio-Blitz project. So this is one example of how you can take the concept of doing a Bio-Blitz and turn it into this learning opportunity. All right, I'm going to take a breath. And since I'm not monitoring the chat, feel free to chime in if you have any questions so far. You mean it's crystal clear? Excellent. Give me a good teacher evaluation. Okay. All right, so if I just dive into a little bit about, and not every single thing about our project, but the overarching view. One of the things that, in addition to making it the citizen science event, I wanted to involve my Loyola students. And I also wanted to invite former students and then also colleagues, including a lot of you on this talk tonight. Like Joelle was a major player in this event, in this project, by helping lead our bird monitoring and not only the events at the Bio-Blitz citizen science events, but she took people to the park. I think it was once a month, every month for an entire year. Joelle can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But they went out and they were fastidious and they enjoyed, of course, the birding. But somebody mentioned as we were about to get started tonight, seeing a painted bunting. One of the really cool things that Joelle learned and taught us from her input in this Bio-Blitz project is that there are painted buntings that are mating and breeding in our city park, which is pretty incredible. And I see Joelle unmuted herself, so if you want to add something.
I just wanted to say we went out every 2 weeks, so it was twice a month for a year. And yes, the painted buntings were breeding in City Park. And the problem with breeding painted buntings is they need really a rough-looking habitat, so a lot of brush. And we have to keep City Park from cleaning out the brush, because you clean out the brush and you clean out the painted buntings.
Yes. So thank you, Joelle, I didn't give her enough credit. They went out twice a month for an entire year. And one of the things as the naturalist that hopefully you're learning or you have already learned is that you can go to the same place at different times throughout the year, at different times throughout a day, and see different things, especially when you're studying something like birds that are able to move with pretty great ease. And so one of the things that we did for this project is identify as many flora and fauna species as possible in the 1,300-acre park. And we did this, it's not written up here for y'all to see, but we did this at different intervals. So let me give you another example other than what Joelle did with her bird group. I had a research student that studied the spider, the ground-dwelling spider community. And because that was the focus of her research, she had to go out different times of the year because you get different species out at different times of the year, but she also had to study them during the day and she had to study them at night because you get different cohorts coming out at different times of the day. So that's just one example. That's one thing about being a naturalist that you learn is you have to understand your species that you're trying to study or that you're trying to learn about as far as their natural history, what they eat, when they breed, what time of the day they're active, what time of the day they're inactive, what seasons they're here if they're migrants. So lots of fun things to learn about it. It's, as y'all know, it's endless. We could study these things forever and still not learn it all. But back to this project, 1,300 acres is huge. I mean, that's bigger than Central Park in New York City. So we didn't study every single part of that. So we cut out little chunks of it. But we did research on the lagoons to study the algal communities. We did work where we collected specifically from the historic oak trees that line the golf course and that are also along Harrison Avenue. We looked in the fishing ponds. We studied the fields where Joelle is talking about, where she found the painted bunting is really close to Couturier Forest on the other side of Harrison Avenue. And then if you go from that roundabout area back toward Wisner, the Wisner track area, that was an area we studied too, with spiders and dragonflies and all kinds of things. And the bird groups and butterfly groups went out there because those areas look very different than Couturier does. So you have a prairie grassland area that's cut every so often versus areas that are cut every day, like a golf course that have chemicals sprayed on them, areas that don't have any chemicals, disturbed areas. So you've got a wide range. And then of course the Botanic Gardens area, we had people monitoring that too. So you've got wide ranges of habitats within this park. And what I mentioned with Meg and others from City Park asked us to do is to gather those data and to give them that information to help them with management plans. Whether they use them or not, well, that's beyond the scope of what we can do, but we've been attending some of the public meetings about Wisner Track and other things to try to help show the vast number of critters that we have identified in the park. And we still add to it. Today I was out there this morning and I found a checkered butterfly species that hasn't been reported in New Orleans yet. So, so we continue to add on to our flora and fauna list. And then you can see two of my former students in the right there. They even got out in the lagoons with their seine and collected fishes, and we caught an alligator, all kinds of cool things. A little bit more about this project. This shows you a picture of people registering for one of our 4 citizen science events. And that was really important to us, is to make it to where people of all ages and levels of expertise could be a part of this. And so we had a wide range of those, you know, fitting that description there, from people who had never been on a nature hike before to people who have PhDs in nature walks, if that's possible. So it was really great. And the other thing that we did was we used the app that I told you about, and I'm going to give you more detail about it, but we used it to gather data to help us with that. But there's also a really nice function that I'm going to show you where you can actually create a project. And Janelle has spoken about this at some of our general membership meetings, because there have been projects that we have been involved with as an organization, and maybe we can bring that up at the end and talk about some that are current. So our iNaturalist project was entitled Bio-Blitz New Orleans City Park, and it is still active. We're still adding data to it to this day, 3 years after our project began. And then just to show you some of the people who contributed, we had, you know, we tried to get the best of the best from our area. So we had Linda Auld leading groups on butterflies. We had Joelle right here leading the groups on birds. Dr. Bob doing what Dr. Bob does, which is a little bit of everything. Here's Craig Hood from Loyola, whom many of you have heard. He speaks at several of our workshops, and also gave our general membership meeting talk in January. And people from the insectarium like Fernando here. These people, none of these people shown here are scientists, but they definitely spent 4 to 5 hours collecting and looking at critters and learning about them. And then James Beck, really great invertebrate biologist, etc. The list goes on and on. So that's just to show you a couple of the great people who were involved. I always like to talk about my students and what they do. These are 5 of my students who, if you look at the dates here, they've all graduated now with some environmental science in biology and teaching degree from Loyola, and they all got a thesis out of this project. So Andrew actually presented a couple times for different things with Master Naturalist. He even came to the Fontainebleau to give a talk one time. He studied the odonate, which are the dragonflies and damselfly communities. So the way that he did that was he studied the aquatic stages. And the bizarre thing, just to throw this out there to y'all, he looked at the dragonfly community and damselfly community in the water right by the new golf course, across the street from the new golf course, where the old golf course is, where the Wisner track is, and then over around the lagoons at Couturier Forest. And he did not find a difference in the communities at those 3 places, which is crazy to us because of all the chemicals that they use to manage that golf course. So I guess that's good for us to learn about. We're still in the process of trying to publish some of these data that they have, but that's just one of the cool findings from his work. I mentioned Shannon's work on the ground-dwelling spiders a little while ago. They're mostly wolf spiders. Ella studied some of the macroinvertebrates, and yes, as you guessed it, there are thousands and thousands of apple snails. So I think it was Ella talking before we started about the apple snail invasive removal from Jean Lafitte. It needs to be done in lots of our systems around the city. And then two other students, Carolyn and Kiana, did some more work on just water and using insects as water quality indicators, and then the plankton community in the lagoon system. So that was with another professor. So I can't speak on it as well as he could, but basically we found a really nice diversity of algae that live in our lagoons. And so just kind of to show you the impact for that just 1 year project of studying the critters at City Park, we engaged over 500 citizen scientists throughout those events. Over 48 scientists helped us to collect the data. We had 66 of our university students mostly from Loyola, but also from Dillard and Tulane and UNO helping out on these projects. And then, like I just showed you, we had 5 students get research projects out of it. We created this project here, and I'm going to show it to you in real time. This is just a screenshot to show you what it looks like when you have data on the iNaturalist app. And then the really cool thing, if you've never used it, is it puts a dot every time you register or you make an observation, essentially. So what you're looking at in this picture is an aerial view, of course, of the maps. And this is City Park. And so all of these dots inside of here are part of our Bio-Blitz project. So I think that's pretty cool to show you, and hopefully I'll get to explain that in more detail to you.
Dr. Emma, before you move on, so Joelle brought up, she had a question. I'll just go ahead and read it off. So aren't all of the lagoons connected to what is put in the lagoon by the new golf course? Would move through all of the lagoons.
Yes.
Did you guys find a chemical difference there? So since they're all connected, did you guys do water quality on like multiple parts of the park, I guess is what she's asking.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's one of our, I would say it's one of our limitations. Yes, we did chemical analyses, but not to the detail that the chemist said we should have done it in retrospect. One thing that, and I wish Meg or somebody were on here to answer this better for me, but my understanding is that the water that comes into those lagoons that comes from Bayou St. John, most of them are connected all the way up to the lagoons that are Bayou Metairie over off of City Park Avenue. But there are a few that do not. And I think one of those is, and if anybody knows better, please pipe in, but there's one that is spring fed that I believe is on the old golf course. So on the other side of Fillmore Avenue. And then, so that's a great point. And let me just kind of follow that up by saying, we knew that about the chemicals, but you would expect where you have the higher concentration of the chemicals entering the lagoons, you're going to have the most detriment to your aquatic species, because then it dissipates as it moves further and further away. You would expect it to not have as adverse an effect, especially given all of the plants that are in the water that filter out some of those chemicals. So it's definitely a limitation. And if I had to do it again, I would do a better job of collecting the chemical data. We actually did a study last year as not really a follow-up, but a semi-follow-up on the chemical 2,4-D on the hyacinth. And we're actually going through the data right now, and hopefully I can present that, if Janelle will let me, to the group like in the next year, because we're finding some very interesting information. We did do the chemical analyses on those because we kind of learned that we need to get more chemical information from the lagoons.
For what it's worth, you also have a lot of that the gravity sewer that runs through the soccer fields, through the parade not the parade grounds, where they hold Voodoo Fest and all
The
that.
festival grounds, yeah.
Right. That all runs down into the bayous too by design, and be interesting to see. I mean, who knows what kind of crap comes off of that.
Yep. Yeah. I know that the group at UNO has been monitoring a lot of the water systems around there for years and years and years. And every so often they put together, I think it's the Lake Pontchartrain Basin, which is now Pontchartrain Conservancy, I think, as of last or 2 weeks ago. I believe that they put those data together and put out an executive summary every so often so that people can see what those numbers are. Okay, so I also have to, Entergy funded us for this. So I put their logo there, and then of course City Park helped us for this project. So that's just a snapshot of what we did. It's by no means the full scope of it, but I wanted to use that as a, the foundation and the framework for how we can actually take that information about what a Bio-Blitz is, why it's important, and an example of one way we've used it, and give you a challenge to go out and explore your landscapes and do so as a naturalist would do, but take it a step further. If you're like me and a lot of people who like to write down your notes and your books and your field guides and when you saw which species and where you saw them, that's great. I am not telling you at all not to do that, but what I'm telling you, in addition to doing that now, there are ways to just get lost in this technology. And so if you want to not get lost in it, but utilize it to help you and others better explore your landscapes, iNaturalist is a great platform to do that. So this part of my talk, I want to just show you how you can use iNaturalist to explore these landscapes. Now, if you're sitting on here listening and you're like, oh gosh, I'm going to get lost because everything's going to get technical, what I've done is I've put it together so hopefully you can listen to me explain it now. Other people can give their experiences too to help out, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that I'm not using on it that you are that can make the experience even better. But also I've made it to where hopefully you can go back and in your own time, you can click on some of these links and you can learn to utilize iNaturalist. And so to move on to this slide, I'm going to show you just, I'll give you this overview right now, shows you how you can explore on and by using iNaturalist with just the generalized iNaturalist link here. And what I'm about to show you is I'm going to click the link, I'm going to explore, I'm going to type in New Orleans City Park so we can see it in real time. So I wrote those directions down so that you could follow it and do it yourself later. And then I want to show you these next two links after that. And then, of course, my urge to you, or I guess my challenge to you, is to search away, and don't be afraid to search away, because that is something that helps you learn. So what I'm going to do for a second, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm just going to go directly into iNaturalist just for a second. So give me just a minute.
And guys, while she's doing that, I'm going to put the links in the chat so that all you have to do is, if you wanted to explore with her right now, if you're hands-on learner, kind of like I am, you can just click the links and follow along with what she's doing. So those will be in the chat. And you can get to the chat by hovering over the bottom of your Zoom meeting screen, and it should be kind of smack dab in the middle.
Awesome. Thank you, Elena.
No problem.
Okay. So what I'm essentially just pretend like I clicked on iNaturalist.org. In fact, I forgot I had put my SpiderDoc ID up here. So let me get rid of that for a minute. And I'm just going to that first link. All right. So when you come up, it's going to pull up, whatever information you put on here with your profile and all that good stuff. If you haven't ever logged on before, it's just like any other website where you would just create an account and put as much information on there or no information or whatever you want on there in order to kind of search around. So what I just what I said was I click on the link, click on explore. So across the top right here, you've got explore, you've got, if you when you put up your observations, you can look at them here. You can look at communities that you want to belong to. It's kind of like on Facebook when you follow people, different projects. If you need help identifying, and then of course there's always the more. What else can you do? But what I want to show you is when you're first getting used to this, this is the thing that I learned first, and it just blew my mind. When you click explore, because this website, and I'm going to wait for it to unpixelate and just kind of scroll down if it's going to let me. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's why. If you have your pictures of all the members across the bottom, you can't really see what's going on. So if you need to move it to the side or something like that, feel free to do so. But what's going on here is it's showing you the entire world. You probably figured that out. And before I zoom in and show you New Orleans City Park, I thought I would show you this because it's amazing how many people have used iNaturalist on a regular basis. And around the world, there are 43 million plus observations that have been added to this citizen science website. Over 285,000 species have been recorded on here. 143,000 plus people have helped identify species here, and over 1 million people have looked at it and observed. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that is. And so you can, if you venture to Tanzania and you want to see what critters people have found in what places, you know, you can hover over Africa and you can kind of start to zoom in by just clicking the plus button over Tanzania or wherever your ventures take you. I went to Tanzania a couple of years ago, so I'm fascinated by it now. And as you scroll in, you just see that every single one of those pixelated dots there are observations, okay? So just to show you can do this wherever you are in the world, whenever you have, you know, an hour when you're at a conference and you have an hour to kill or whatever, you know, in your neighborhood. What I want to show you is if I click here and I just type in New Orleans City Park, and it takes me directly to that location. It outlines and it knows where New Orleans City Park is, which is pretty cool. Somebody's probably mapped it in there before. And notice that it only shows me the links that are in New Orleans City Park. So there have been over 3,000 observations. A lot of those are from our project, which is pretty cool. Over 740 species. So if you've ever wondered about approximately how many species of organisms have been identified in City Park, well, you always know the number's higher, but you know it's at least 741 because people have logged that on iNaturalist. And then, you know, you can go from there and just explore. So if I click on one of the links, that's when it takes you directly into the park. And it shows me that that particular link at that particular place was logged in August of 2017 on the north course. So it picks up your GPS. Uh-oh, this is one of my students. They cheated here. Okay, they're busted. Too bad they graduated a couple of years ago. I had my students post some of the insects that they collected, but they were supposed to do it in the field. So this shows that he put this on here and took the picture later. So he's busted. But anyway, you can see that he collected this from this location on a specific date. And there have been enough identifications that have come behind what he initially put it as, which is an earwig, to make it. I thought I saw a research grade on here. Let's see, it's a part of this project. Let me see. 3 out of 3, 10 observations. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, I looked right over it. So this is the common name of this organism. This is the scientific name of this organism. And because it is vetted by people in the community, in the iNaturalist community, if it gets enough, basically like likes or confirms of the identification, it becomes research grade, which means you can basically trust that the identification is accurate. Now, I would do my due diligence and I would make sure and I would verify, but that's a pretty good indication that that organism is properly identified. And sometimes you can't get it past the common name or the family name, and that's okay. I mean, it depends on how you want to use this. But again, you can do this anywhere in the world. Now, I zoomed in on New Orleans City Park because I wanted to show y'all that specifically. But if you can see where my cursor is right under observation, if I X out of that, but I stay in this location, it then brings up all of the observations that have been logged in the entire map that you can see, which stretches from, it looks like Clearview Parkway to the Industrial Canal area right here. So this is, I mean, I'm just still amazed when I look at this and how many people contribute to this. And if you zoom out to see more of Metairie and the New Orleans area, you can see just how many people are on INAT. Even people going, I would guess this is probably some of the naturalists here, going across the Causeway Bridge. So you see a brown booby at a certain time of the year, you log it. Let's see what this is. A large white-headed gull. And it's research grade. So whoever posted and got confirmations, I'm going to guess these are all birds. Yeah, there's a laughing gull. There's a brown pelican. So nothing too shocking there, but every once in a while you do get something shocking, and it's just neat to see. You can get as into this as you want or stay out of it, you know, as much as you want and just contribute. So use it the way that you want to use it. But the nice thing about it is the way that we used it. So I'm going to kind of switch gears here for a second, and I'm going to show you projects. All right. So if you go to community and you click on projects, you can do all kinds of things. It looks like right now there's this City Nature Challenge that happened in April, and we'll talk about that in more detail. But you can look at all of those that have been featured in different parts of the world. I mean, you can look, so phenology is a big thing now. We are doing phenology walks at several places around the New Orleans area. You can look at different projects. Sometimes they're in your area, sometimes they aren't. You can narrow it down. But this is what we did to help get all of our information in one place. Before I move on, Janelle, do you want to talk about that City Nature Challenge? Isn't that the one we were involved with?
Yes, so we did the City Nature Challenge in 2019, very informally, nothing very organized. I announced it at a meeting, and it was individually directed. I just said, go out to the nearest green space, take some photos, and submit them to iNaturalist. And people, of course, were given volunteer hours for doing that. And so our vision for 2020 was to be a little more organized. That didn't happen. And so if anybody gets really inspired and wants to spearhead our City Nature Challenge for 2021, talk to me and I'll get you started.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember Janelle announced this at our January general membership meeting. And then, of course, we know what happened in March. But so this is the page, the project, the World Project for City Nature Challenge. And so we can look and you can search for the New Orleans challenge, but this just shows you who's leading. So it makes it a competition so that you're, you know, for people who jive on competition, you know, it helps you get motivated. There's your motivation. So all kinds of cool things to be involved with these projects. The project that we did was the Bio-Blitz New Orleans, spelled our city right, New Orleans City Park. And so here we are. And so I showed you a screenshot of our results essentially for our project. And let's see. That didn't pull up the full project, so let me see what's going on. Just click here. Okay, so this is the page I want you to see. So this is shows you the total number of observations. Now that's not number of species, that's just when you put an observation. You can add a picture. If you don't have a picture, you can still add an observation. A total of 402 species were directly attributed to this project, and 49 people uploaded information. When we had our citizen science events, a lot of people didn't want to use iNaturalist at the time because they were too busy learning and taking notes and everything. So in that case, we wrote down observations, and then I had my students and I added them to the project individually. So there were definitely more people involved in the observations there, but only 49 added them. But the other cool thing, again, if you like the whole competition thing, you can see what who made the most observations, who identified and uploaded the most species, and then what species was observed the most. And I know, Janelle, you're probably cringing. I mean, Joelle, sorry, you're probably cringing with the American crow, but it looks like that one and the blue jay were the most observed species, probably because they're easy to see, they're easy to identify, etc. But then you can also go through and you can see some of the pictures that were uploaded, and some of them are quite nice. So lots to play with, lots to look at. This just describes what our project is, which I've already done for you. As the person overseeing this project, this is what I was also interested in. I could download, I could export all the observation information into an Excel spreadsheet. And that's how we actually analyzed our data, was using that Excel spreadsheet. So if you like to get that information, if you create a project, that's how you can do it. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm going to go back to sharing my other screen. And so these are the links that take you directly to where I just was, if you don't want to go through the Explore and then typing out the location and everything. So I put that in there so that you can go back and look at it. Okay, a couple more things to talk about, and then I definitely want to open up for questions. This is something that I found out about in January. So let me just kind of set the scene for everybody, because I think that this is a great story, and it goes back to how easily how engaging people in nature can get you excited and reinvigorated. Not that I need help with it, but this was something that just kind of blew my mind. I was standing with my class of students, and I was teaching the class, I call it Naturally Nolans. And it's a wetlands class where we go around to all the different locations, very similar to locations that we go for Master Naturalist. And we go and we just learn the natural history of the organisms that are there with respect to the wetlands of Southeast Louisiana. So much fun to teach, of course. And so I was trying to teach them, standing in the Bonnie Carey Spillway area, I was trying to teach them how to identify a tree in winter. This was probably my second class with them. None of them have taken many plant classes. You know, they definitely haven't taken a plant ID course. And so I'm standing there expecting them to, you know, not really know, but just kind of make some hypotheses and guess. So I said, all right, who knows what this tree is? And I'm standing there next to a willow tree. And there are no leaves on it at all. And I said, who knows what this tree is? And a student from the very back says, Dr. Thomas, that's a willow. And I said, it is a willow. How did you know it was a willow? How did you get it to fit, you know, that group so fast? And she said, well, my app just told me. And so, you know, y'all have to realize this is a 20-year-old student. They're going to use whatever technology they have, and they're going to utilize it. And I think that's great. And I'm all for that. And I said, what app are you talking about? Because I know iNaturalist doesn't give you that research grade feedback right away. And she said, oh, it's when I signed up for this class, I started looking for cool apps that I could use in the field. And I found this app called Seek. So y'all see it right here. All right, there is the word Seek. So, oops, let me go back. Sorry about that. Write this one down, because this is going to change your life, okay? And make sure you get the right Seek. Seek is a free download from the App Store, and the way you know it's the right one is because it is called Seek by iNaturalist. So it's the same people who made iNaturalist, And even better, it corresponds with iNaturalist. So you get to use it in correspondence with iNat, and that is amazing, okay? Basically what you do is you take this app, you open it up, you point it toward the plant that you want to identify or the insect, which it's much easier with plants, so start on plants because they don't fly away, okay? And they're easy to get in focus usually. You point it on it, and as long as there's enough detail or form and characters in view, it can identify it down to species, and it is unbelievable. But as you're pointing it, you're not even taking a picture, you just have the camera with your Seek app on the plant. It is telling you that it knows what family it's in, it's got it down to genus, and if you give a different angle, it can probably get it to species. It's pretty unbelievable, and it works. And I used it on several species today, which is how I was able to identify that butterfly that hasn't been shown to be in this area yet. I know it hasn't shown because it's the first dot in iNaturalist for south of the lake. So anyway, let me show it to you because this is going to change your life. Okay. So this is what it looks like when you go to, you can of course go, use your iPad or use your phone to download it. And this is what the app actually looks like. So make sure it says Seek, make sure it says by iNaturalist. And I was trying to find the Calicad and the National Geographic symbols earlier when I was on iNaturalist to show you that this is why this website is so good. It has really good funding, and it's run by the Calicad and Nat Geo. So this just shows you, I'm not going to go through and actually show you, you can play with it on your phone, but we don't have enough time for me to go through everything. But this right here shows you how incredible it is. If you just imagine your phone like this one that I'm outlining right here, this is your camera right here, and you just aim at the butterfly. And in my case this morning, I was waiting for the butterfly to open her wings so that I could snap the picture at the right time. And then it got it down, because before the wings were open, it was getting it to the right family of butterflies, but it couldn't identify it to species. So it will get it down. And so it shows you right here, monarch. And then you take
Sorry,
go ahead.
Can anybody else see it, or do you guys still just see the slides? I think we're just seeing the slide.
Okay, sorry about that.
No,
I'm glad you stopped me.
Yeah, I didn't want you to keep going. People are like,
better?
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, good. So, okay, well, what I was showing you, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to follow, hopefully. It's Seek by iNaturalist. And then this is the, imagine this is your phone right here in your hand, and you're aiming at this butterfly that's right in front of you. So it shows you it's gotten it to the species level. It tells you the common name of this species, and then it encourages you to take a picture, because then that'll be your observation and your picture of this species that then transfers into iNat. And so you don't have to take the picture, but you probably will want to. Even if it's not a great picture, it still records the date, it records the location, and it keeps up with the observations that you have made, which I think is pretty cool. And then right here, when you click and you take the picture, it gives you a prompt to learn more about it. And so then it takes you into the next screen, which it's not showing you here. This is showing you a different screen, but it shows you the taxonomic breakdown of your monarch. It shows you a range map of your monarch. It shows you just a quick Wikipedia blurb of your monarch, and that's enough to get you started. Then you can go and you can read more about whatever species it is that you're interested in. So this link right here is incredible. The other thing I want to show you before I go back is that, if this is too technical or it's, blowing your mind, they have really nice, easy to follow user guides. So all you have to do is download that. And they also have really great short videos that show you how to use it effectively. And then, of course, if you want to read more and you want to learn more, there are blogs that you can read. And there's a whole community of people that contribute to all of these iNat features. So, Change Your Life, Get Seek by iNat. It's incredible. All right, one more thing to show you, and then we'll go to questions, is this. This is your challenge. So one of the things when Janelle asked people to speak and give these seminars is to give you something to do, because let's face it, we're all stir crazy. We all want to be outside. So your challenge, because we have COVID spiking again, and because we know Jean Lafitte isn't open yet, get outside. Even if it's, if you're not comfortable going to City Park yet, you're not comfortable going to, any other park, in your yard, you can do exactly what we're talking about here. You can conduct your Bio-Blitz at your house, and you can explore your urban landscape using iNaturalist and using Seek if you don't have access to any of the field guides that will help you identify. So again, I said this earlier, I wouldn't say this is in place of your books if you're old school like me and you still love your books and you love to flip through them at night or at any time of the day. This is a great tool that can replace it, but it also can be used in addition to, these tools can be used in addition to your books. So there's your challenge. Explore your urban landscape, and let's see who can identify a bunch of species in their yard. This is the perfect time of year for critters that I love, insects and spiders, because this is when they start to get going. This is when they're at the height. And from now until about October is a really great time to study spiders and insects in your yard. Go learn who's out there and teach your neighbors. Tell them about the cool things in your yard. So with that, I'm hoping that that's exciting to you, and I hope that challenge is exciting to you. I'm out of time to kind of do some observations, but I put on here, you can go to my user ID, which is SpiderDoc, and see what observations I've made at my home. I'm up to, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 spiders in my yard, something like that over the past couple of years. And I need to do better because I know that there's more critters than that around, but you're welcome to go and look at that. So there's my email address if you want to email me and ask any questions or have any comments, and I'll take any questions y'all might have.
So before we start with questions, I wanted to remind you that next week there is no seminar because we have a board meeting next Wednesday, and that those of you who are attending the seminars need to file your hour of continuing education on Track It Forward, and then I'll let Elena speak to how your observations on iNaturalist would translate into volunteer hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, sorry, I had to find the unmute button again. So I actually am sitting here thinking, and Dr. Janelle, sound off if you have any objections to this. But one of the questions actually that we had from Dr. Mary was how to start a project. And I included a link in the chat, but I'll kind of briefly go over my quick idea, and then you can expand upon that since you have experience creating a project. But I was thinking we could create a project for this, and just, I think maybe even a kind of COVID-19 quarantine volunteer element, and that's a lot of words, but just kind of do a whole project for us right now to kind of encourage us to get out there and make these observations.
Yeah, like some urban challenge. Well, that's kind of been used. Maybe explore your urban landscape, NOLA, or something like that.
Love it.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'll do that. But do you want to kind of address Dr. Mary's question in regards to, like, is it difficult to start a project? Like, what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so I'm looking through the chat right now, and I see the link that you sent her. That's exactly what you need to do. I created ours 3 years ago, and I haven't created one since. So what I did to create that was to just go and do exactly what Elena put in there. I searched for how do you create a project, and it just gave me a couple of links. It's super easy, Mary. So yeah, I mean, it's, so I don't know if it has changed because I haven't looked, but I would just follow that link, and you can name it whatever you want. You can, the features that you can play with, you can set a parameter as far as like the latitude and longitude. You can kind of draw a perimeter around it. There's one that anytime I post something, Louisiana Biodiversity tags my my uploads, and that's because Louisiana Biodiversity is a project that somebody set up to collect all the biodiversity in our state, and so it's delineated by that, and it's automatic. So you can make it automatic to where if anybody posts something in the area that you're interested in, that it automatically goes there. So there, yeah, lots of stuff to play with. You can make it as open or as limited as possible, and you can invite people to it. You can make it public, you can make it private, lots of parameters to set.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually starting it right now, and it does seem pretty easy. So I'll get that started, and I'll send a link out to everybody. But I'm thinking perhaps we do it kind of along the same vein as our photo submissions for social media. So for every 5 photos you send, you get an hour worth of volunteer time. And I say, how about for every 5 observations, you get an hour of volunteer time. And then I think with everything going on right now and COVID and stuff, obviously we're trying to be really flexible with volunteer hours, because 20 is a lot when you don't have to socially distance yourself. So I might say try not to do it like just all observations. So maybe we'll cap it at 10 hours or something along those lines. But yeah, because iNaturalist is a fantastic way to, because you are contributing to something, right? You're contributing to citizen science, which is a volunteer effort in my opinion, and extra points if you pick up trash along the way or something. And also I want to just real quick highlight Seek. If you want to look super, super cool to like a 5 to 8-year-old, pull out Seek, and oh my gosh, the kids go crazy for it. But okay, so we'll get back to a couple of other questions. I saw one, and this is actually a really great question, from William about how to upload pictures to iNaturalist if you have like an SLR or a DSLR camera, because it's different, because not your camera doesn't have the app.
Yep. Yeah, so you can use iNat on your computer. In fact, all those screens that I showed you are from my computer. I take pictures and I'll in the field with my phone, but then I look at the iNat on my computer just because it's bigger and you can see it easily. So you can plug your camera into your computer just like you would upload pictures, and you can and if your SLR has GPS and date stamp and all that stuff, it will go into iNat as well. So you can upload it a week after if you don't have time that day, and it will attribute it back to when you actually saw it and where you saw it and all that good stuff. So there's a way to upload. So when you go to iNat, if it's not obvious to you right away, you would just type it, go to the search bar and say, upload, how do I upload photos? But it's pretty obvious when you get to it. I never do it that way, but I know people do it all the time. So if you can't figure that out, William, feel free to email me and I'll walk you through it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna look and see if I can find a like a quick little web page on their website too, and I'll go ahead and put
Good.
that.
Good, because I know James Beck does that, and he, as y'all saw, he was our top contributor for that, and he does iNat all the time, and I know that's how he does it because he has a nice camera.
Yeah, and I've done it that way before, and it is fairly easy. But I have not seen, unless you are really good, because this is another thing too. So if you're not using Seek and you're just using your phone, if you're like real fancy with the DSLR, I know I have an SD card reader for my phone. So if you get really, really into it, you can also buy one of those readers on Amazon for like $15, And then that way, when you're in the field, you just plug it into your phone, plug in your SD card, and you can upload it that way. That gets a little tricky though, because the camera file size is huge. So it's a lot easier to just go home and do it from your computer. But yeah. Let's see. I'm going to see if we have any other questions. Seth did ask a really good question about why not just recording the amount of time you observe and reporting that to iNaturalist. So the way we've done these observation type projects in the past, it gets a little tricky to record time and stuff, and you're kind of out there for weird numbers of hours. So that's kind of why we generally like to just say, you know, for every 5 observations, you'll get an hour. And it's kind of an honor system, right? So if you guys go out and you're like, I don't want to spend half an hour doing it, that's fine. Go ahead and give us, you know, 2 to 3 observations or something like that. And then when you guys are reporting those hours, if you could just put maybe your iNaturalist username or handle in the notes section and just kind of briefly what you ID'd, I'll get them approved, and it'll just be as easy as that. All right, and I'm trying to...
Elena, I think you skipped over one of Mary's questions about iNat. Is there any way to sort the observations in iNat into different projects? Yeah, you definitely can. You can go in and physically attribute an observation to a project. You can do it on your phone, and you can also do it online. I think it's easy both ways. You just have to make sure when you're on that observation that you go to projects and you click the project. So and actually you can attribute it to several. So when we did Bio-Blitz, I was trying to attribute it to Louisiana biodiversity as well. So yeah. And then Anne asked about if your camera has a video card in it and you have a card reader, you can, that's what you just said.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yeah, so that's how you can get it online from your camera if you have like a newer laptop with the SD card slot on the side. And then it looks like we've got one more question from Adele. She's asking, and it looks like Dr. Janelle kind of jumped in there and answered it a little bit, but I'll let you expand on it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it totally depends. Totally depends on what you're interested in. I mean, if you're walking around in the field, what she put down is, it's a joke that I always talk about when I go to Jean Lafitte, because I'm like, look, y'all, I use a golden guide in the field because it's this big and it fits in my pocket. It's definitely not what I use at home. If I'm trying to explore more, because there's more updated and bigger versions that are really great books, but they're heavy, they're expensive, and I don't want them to get ruined in the field. So, but like, I'll just show you one I have here because I was looking at it earlier. This book I've recently discovered. Let me turn off my background so y'all can see it better. Let's see. Turn off virtual background. All right, so this is Butterflies of Louisiana. This is a cool book if you're into butterflies. I mean, look, it's pretty thick too, and it's just of Louisiana. So that's a great one. I put my insect book up earlier. I have the Kastner insect book. I mean, I don't even know how to describe them all. There's so many that I like. So Adele, that's a hard question to answer. It depends on what taxa you're looking for. I don't know, and anybody can pipe in now, of a really great all-encompassing natural history book for critters in Louisiana. Does anyone? I mean, I wish, maybe that's our next project as Master Naturalist. We need to come up with one.
Yeah, there's one by Audubon for southeastern states, and it's okay. It's not phenomenal. I was carrying that one around a lot, and I found like I was using my golden guides, or I was using, just the internet, because it's a good overview. But when you start to try and find, more specific species, even I feel like some that are common in our area, because, we're pretty subtropical in New Orleans, and it doesn't quite include all of that. So,
right.
But it's a good overview field guide, and I don't have a picture of it, but I can definitely link in the chat.
And I noticed that Janelle put that Peterson Field Guide to Birds and everyone has their favorite for birders, you know, I mean, so it just depends. Adele, are you in the class in the fall?
Let's see if we can get her unmuted.
Yep, see, get her unmuted. Oh, I think I can do it.
Oh,
I know.
I'm actually in the class for spring of 2021.
Oh, okay. So you got to, I was going to say, because we show a lot of the field guides that that we use, and everyone has their favorites. But you can spend a whole lot of money on field guides because there are great ones out there.
Yeah, I found one, a good book the other day. Give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
And I just linked the Audubon
Oh,
Society
yeah.
book that I was talking about. Again, it's not terrible. It's a great, if you're out in the field and you just want to quickly look something up, it's about the same size as the Audubon bird field guides. So it's portable.
Okay.
All right.
So that looks like warblers. Oh yeah. Wow. Those are nice pictures. So that's not one you would want. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's a hardback. So you probably wouldn't want to take that in the field, but it's great for sitting around at home.
Yeah, I love it because I'm blind and it has big pictures.
Nice. Very good.
And you know what? I'm going to go ahead too. Y'all, I probably shouldn't give away my secret. Y'all are going to go on and steal all the books. But one of my favorite websites to buy used books, and honestly all books from, is called betterworldbooks.com. It's a really great resource. You can get books really, really cheap. I just put the link in the chat right underneath the Amazon for the field guide. But the way Better World Books works, you know, they try to offset their carbon footprint with shipping, and they donate a book for every book you order, and they always have sales where if you buy more books, you know, you get a bigger discount, which hurts me every time, but I highly, highly recommend that site if you guys are looking for affordable books on natural history. I mean, they've got all of them, fiction, nonfiction. It's a wealth of book resource. And then too, I highly recommend, again, for kids, sorry y'all, I'm an educator. I know for camp at Audubon, that's where we buy our books, because a lot of them are used library books, and kids are really hard on books. So don't buy a brand new book when you could just get a used one. So I highly recommend the website. All right, and I think that's all for questions. I think we touched on pretty much all of them. I am still working on our little project there, so I will get that. Let's see, Dr. Janelle, do we want to just send that out maybe in the next email, or?
Yeah, so we'll send the link, but you can actually search it. So, Elena, what's the name going to be?
Perfect. Yeah, so the name is going to be, I just went ahead and named it LMNGNO, Explore Your Landscape. All right, and I'll definitely.
Yeah, I'll include that in the next email, but when you get to iNaturalist, it comes up. So all the projects I've been a part of come up. So it's okay.
Oh, good deal. Well, yeah, so that's the title, and actually I'll do, oh, perfect, thank you. She put it in the chat for me. So yeah, if y'all just search that, give me 15 minutes. My dog is chomping at the bit, but I'll definitely get that ready to go. All right,
Okay.
It looks like,
All right.
oh, hold on.
Thank you so much, Amy.
It looks like Frank has a suggestion on a book. Sorry, y'all, real quick. Oh, it's a bat book. And Frank is our resident expert on bats. So there's a great bat book suggestion in the chat for you guys too.
All right, thanks. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Bye.
Bye.